Leo Pelissier stood outside the Royal Mojo Blues Company. A bucket, a cauldron, really, filled with individual servings of candy in front of him. Each piece was wrapped in paper, or foil, or foiled paper, with the ingredients in tiny print on the back, showing calorie content and fat content, which was significant, and nutritional value, which was negligible. He had always thought that was the point of candy, that it was to be nothing but sugar and fat and delicious. A treat back in his day, a sweet that was earned when he had done something good, like staying on his pony through a trot over small fences, or translated a particularly difficult Latin tale into the French, or Castilian, or Greek, as his tutor demanded. His hand beaten with a thin strip of wood when he failed, and his presence at dinner denied. Treats when he succeeded. It was the way of his father's house. Carrot and stick. Or candy and stick. It had been effective then. Now children could have sweets at every meal, and on All Hallows' Eve even more. It was scarcely past sunset, and the streets were filled with adults in various stages of inebriation, accompanied by various stages of nudity the closer to Bourbon Street one drew. Costumes that did far more than hint were everywhere, even here at the Mithrin Council Chambers. But here, as tradition dictated, there were children. Many, many children. Halloween in the French Quarter of New Orleans had been changed forever when Marilyn Monroe had attempted to turn John Kennedy in the Oval Office and been staked for her trouble. That next year, 1963, Leo had appeared for the first time in full tuxedo and a black cloak with scarlet silk lining to hand out candy, personally. The children had been bussed in from all over the city at Mithrin expense, and back then a parent thought nothing of putting children on a bus and sending them off for a party, which was what he had put on for them, all along the street in front of the chambers. There had been humans dressed as storybook witches in every doorway, some with hot cauldrons full of liquid pralines that they ladled onto waxed paper, allowed to cool and solidify, and gave away. Others offering popcorn balls or caramels. Jugglers, clowns, artists of every stripe were encouraged to display their wares. Musicians stood on every street corner, with baskets or open instrument cases before them for tips. There were pony rides. The press wandered among the crowds, taking photographs for the Times-Picayune, and a show on CBS or NBC or ABC, all across the nation. The party had been a ploy to improve public opinion of the newly revealed creatures of darkness, as described by a young, up-and-coming newsman, whose name he had long forgotten. The street party had been successful at the time. Now fewer parents allowed their children onto the chartered buses, instead throwing parties for them in the safety of their schools or in private homes. And when they did allow the children aboard, the parents came too, holding their child's hand. These days, monsters on the streets might be human, intent on much worse than stealing a little blood. There were fewer and fewer newsmen and newswomen on the streets to photograph the decades-old tradition. Perhaps in a few years he would discontinue the party, or perhaps make it bigger. He could add wine tasting and beer tasting, and persuade restaurants to bring their foods to taste in order to attract an older, more sophisticated crowd. But there were still a few here tonight. Children and reporters both. Enough each year to brave the quarter for the joy of taking candy from a vampire. And this year, one of the candy makers was a real witch, one he recognized from her dossier. He nodded regally to Suzanne Richardson White, an earth witch with a gift for making pralines that rivaled Aunt Sally's. It was a sign of improvement between the races that she was here, in public, sharing a street with a Mithrin. On All Hallows' Eve.